Hey, Soul Stories fam. We've got a sweet and totally swoon-worthy love story for you today. Let's jump in. Monday morning, the Grant Mansion was as silent as a boardroom before a meeting began. Silent until a loud pop echoed down the hallway, followed by a vacuum robot zooming like a rocket, with two oversized plastic eyes stuck to its head. It chased after a lemon-yellow striped sock wobbling across the floor. "Noah Grant!" the temporary housekeeper cried out in shock. "Did you stare at the robot and make it hunt socks again?" "I'm just training it to be a lost and found dog." Noah, 6 years old, hair a bird's nest of tangles, grinned brightly, clutching a roll of tape in his hand. The study door opened. Daniel Grant appeared in his crisp suit and dark tie, his calm eyes carrying the composure of a man used to making million-dollar decisions at 8 in the morning. He surveyed the scene, the robot speeding wildly, the sock fluttering like a butterfly, the housekeeper on the verge of tears, and Noah beaming as if presenting a brand new invention. "Turn it off, now!" Daniel's voice was even. Noah fumbled for the remote and pressed the wrong button. The robot immediately began to sing "Happy Birthday." The housekeeper clutched her forehead. Daniel closed his eyes for a second. It was the third week in a row that the Grants had replaced a maid. More precisely, the third week in a row, the maid had quit on her own, leaving behind a trembling note that read, "I'm sorry, sir, but I can't handle Noah's level of creativity." Daniel pulled the plug from the robot. In his eyes, this was simply an overactive child who needed discipline. The problem to him lay in rules, not in any complicated psychological explanations. His life was organized like a spreadsheet: meetings, reports, deadlines, with a few blocks marked "Time for Noah" slotted in like another task. He believed that with more structure, everything would fall into place. "You will apologize to Mrs. Kelly and put the tape back where it belongs," Daniel said. "Are you mad, Dad?" Noah asked hesitantly. "I'm late for a call." Daniel glanced at his watch. "Don't do it again." Noah lowered his head. "Yes, sir," then muttered under his breath, "If you had breakfast at home, I wouldn't stare at the robot." Daniel froze. The reflexive reply came out automatically. "I don't eat at home." That afternoon, rain poured across the city. The Grant living room glowed with warm lights. A staff member from the employment agency arrived with a new candidate. "Mr. Grant, this is Miss Lily Evans." The staffer forced a smile. "To be frank, all the experienced candidates are fully booked. Miss Evans doesn't have formal experience, but..." A young woman stepped in, her hair tied high, her thin raincoat dotted with droplets of water. She smiled, a smile that instantly softened the seriousness of the room. "Hello, Mr. Grant. I'm Lily. I've never worked as a professional maid, but I'm tidy, a fast learner, and I know how to get kids to brush their teeth, usually with silly made-up songs, but it works." Daniel glanced at her file. Empty under "Worked with Family AB." Instead, it listed cashier, waitress, and community kitchen helper. He looked up. "You have no experience with childcare?" "If looking after the neighborhood kids every afternoon so their parents could finish their shifts counts, then yes," Lily answered honestly. "I don't have certificates, but I know how to listen. And I know you can't win against Flower's messiness, because Flower doesn't listen to anyone." Daniel didn't laugh. He called out, "Noah!" The boy peeked from the staircase, wide brown eyes fixed on the newcomer. He circled Lily like a kitten sizing up a stranger. "Do you know how to stop the vacuum robot without it singing Happy Birthday?" Noah asked seriously. "Yes." Lily was equally serious. "Unplug it." Noah burst out laughing. Daniel did not. "Miss Evans, this house has 3 rules: punctuality, respect for privacy, and absolutely no entering my study without permission," Daniel said, voice firm. "You'll receive Noah's schedule every night. I don't eat at home, so no need to prepare dinner for me." "Yes, sir," Lily nodded. "But may I ask, if you don't eat at home, what's in the fridge?" "Food." Daniel's answer was curt. "Food has expiration dates," Lily smiled gently. "I just don't want it to go to waste." Daniel's frown tightened ever so slightly. He wasn't used to being questioned about trivial matters, but her eyes shone without defiance. only as if she were suggesting the kitchen. Be treated like a kitchen. The agency staffer cleared his throat. Mr. Grant, given the labor shortage, Daniel nodded, no other options. Noah needed someone at home. As for experience, he trusted the strict rules would make up for it. 1-month trial. If it works out, we'll extend. Yes, Lily brightened. Hi, teammate Noah. Let's work well together, okay? Noah slapped her hand with a cheerful high five, a gesture he rarely offered strangers. Daniel made a mental note. Noah responds well to this girl. Late afternoon, the rain eased. Noah sat sketching a car with wings. Daniel stood in the doorway, about to remind him to shower, but paused when he overheard Lily crouch beside him. Does this car fly? She asked. Yes, because it has a dad memory engine. When Dad's busy, it'll fly to him on its own. Lily went quiet for a beat. She glanced up and caught Daniel standing at the threshold. Noah spotted his father and waved. Dad, look at my flying car. Daniel stepped closer, glanced at the drawing, then at his son. In his mind, the usual conclusion surfaced. The boy is making up more and more stories for attention. His schedule must be tightened. He cleared his throat. Go take a shower, then come down for dinner. Will you eat with us, Dad? Noah asked softly. Daniel hesitated. The words, I don't eat at home, had slipped from his lips for years now. He kept them steady. I have a call at 7. Noah nodded, eyes downcast. He clutched his drawing and ran off. The Grant Mansion's usually cold kitchen felt different tonight. It no longer sat silent like an expensive showroom, but buzzed with the sound of chopping knives, the scent of melting butter, and the heat radiating from the oven. Lily bustled around the counter. Roast chicken turning golden in the oven, an olive salad resting in a glass bowl, freshly baked bread filling the air with warmth. On the stove, a pot of creamy pumpkin soup bubbled gently, its sweet aroma filling the room. Noah sat in a high chair, chin propped on his hand, eyes gleaming with anticipation. Miss Lily, it smells so good. Is that pizza? Not exactly. Lily smiled, stirring the soup. This is a home-cooked dinner. Nothing fancy, but enough to make someone's belly happy. I think Dad's belly needs to be happy a lot, Noah whispered, his eyes mischievous. Meanwhile, upstairs, Daniel was still glued to his laptop. Contracts, reports, board calls. His schedule rolled on, packed tight. But this time something intruded, the smell of home cooking. First came the buttery aroma, then the herbal scent of roasted chicken, followed by the sweet softness of pumpkin. His senses were dragged downstairs mercilessly. Daniel frowned, forcing himself to focus, but a small growl from his stomach betrayed him. I should check her hygiene standards, he muttered to himself, the voice in his head as dry as if delivering a risk management report. He appeared at the kitchen doorway, tall and composed in his crisp shirt. Miss Evans, I recall making it clear. I don't eat at home, Daniel said coldly. Yes, I remember. Lily calmly continued ladling soup into a bowl. This is for Noah, but if you'd like to try some, you're welcome. Daniel narrowed his eyes, but the aroma tugged at his CEO pride. For sanitary reasons, I think I should taste it. He spoke as though announcing a duty at work. Of course. Lily handed him a spoon, her eyes glinting with a trace of amusement. Daniel took the spoon and sat down. He dipped into the pumpkin soup, lifted it to his lips. The creamy texture was smooth, lightly sweet, with a hint of cinnamon and a hint of melting butter. A warm flavor, nothing extravagant, yet oddly comforting. Acceptable, Daniel said with a small nod, striving to keep his voice neutral. Acceptable? Lily tilted her head. Daniel remained silent, his face unreadable. Beside him, Noah tried a spoonful, his eyes shining. Then he turned, firing straight at his father's heart. But Dad, you said you don't eat at home? Daniel froze, the spoon still in his hand. Noah grinned from ear to ear. He straightened, trying to recover. I was only checking. Checking your stomach? Noah burst out laughing. Lily nearly laughed too, but covered her mouth in time. She set down a plate of roast chicken, already carved into golden slices, right in front of Daniel. If you're checking, sir, then you'd better check thoroughly. Daniel glanced at the plate of chicken, then caught Noah's expectant gaze. After a brief hesitation, he picked up his fork and knife. That dinner had no champagne, no distinguished guests, no fancy rituals, just soup, roast chicken, salad, and the sound of a child's laughter. Daniel stayed through the whole meal. When he stood, he spoke softly, as if delivering the conclusion of a meeting. Dinner wasn't bad. With that, he turned and headed upstairs. But when Noah leaned toward Lily and whispered, she heard clearly, "I knew it. Dad likes dinner at home. He just won't admit it." Lily smiled faintly, her eyes following the back of the man who kept his distance from the world, even from his own son. A simple, home-cooked dinner, and the tightly shut doors of the Grant household had cracked open just a little. Morning at the Grant mansion began with a sharp thud. Daniel had just stepped out of his study when he saw an important stack of documents scattered across the hallway floor. Looking up, he caught Noah sneaking down the stairs, his hands still sticky with green glue. "Noah!" Daniel's voice was low, clipped. "What did you just do?" Noah froze, his lips trembling. I was only trying to make paper airplanes." Some of Grant Corporation's contracts had been folded into crumpled fighter jets. One even had jagged teeth drawn on it in marker, turning the airplane into a cartoon monster. Daniel tightened his grip on his briefcase strap, his breathing steady. To him, it was just another prank, yet another antic that had driven multiple nannies to quit. "You must learn to respect my documents," he said, his tone cold like he was announcing a rule. "These are not toys." Noah dropped his gaze. For the briefest moment, his eyes shattered like cracked glass. Just then, Lily stepped out of the kitchen, flour still dusting her hands. She caught sight of Noah clutching the paper airplane tightly, his lips trembling. "What's going on?" she asked, glancing between father and son. Daniel replied flatly, "He just turned company documents into toys." Lily glanced at the papers strewn on the floor, then picked up an airplane. She unfolded it and saw the clumsy yet detailed drawings, wheels, propellers, even tiny round windows. "Oh, so this is a Grant Airlines plane?" she exclaimed, her voice genuinely excited. Noah's head shot up, his eyes lighting. "Yes, that's the name I gave it. This plane will bring Dad home early every night." The words dropped into the air like a pebble rippling across water. Daniel stiffened. For the first time, he saw meaning in what had seemed like meaningless mischief. Lily smiled and crouched down to Noah's level. "If you want your dad to notice your planes, why not use drawing paper instead? I've got a whole stack of blank sheets, plenty to fold without messing up contracts." Noah furrowed his brows in thought, then nodded firmly. "Then can I draw a logo on them too?" "Of course, even if it's a flying carrot logo." Lily grinned. Noah burst into giggles. Daniel watched the scene, something in him softening without his realizing it. He suddenly remembered, ever since his wife had passed, Noah's antics had been his only way of drawing attention. But now, hearing his son say, "The plane brings Dad home early," Daniel understood. This wasn't mischief. It was a hidden message. That afternoon, Lily set up a paper airplane workshop on the long dining table. She laid out drawing paper, crayons, tape, and safety scissors. Noah worked with deep focus, folding each plane, while Lily encouraged him to add flight numbers, logos, and even write Grant Airlines, flight to Dad. Passing by, Daniel stopped for a moment. He saw his son's radiant smile, heard Lily's cheerful coaching, and watched the pile of once wrinkled paper transform into a colorful fleet neatly lined on the table. "Flight to Dad," Daniel murmured, reading the crooked child's handwriting on one plane. Lily looked up, catching his gaze. She said nothing, just smiled softly as if to say, "See? This isn't just mischief." Daniel cleared his throat, covering the flicker of emotion. "Don't let paper planes scatter all over the house again." "Yes, sir," Lily answered, her voice mock serious. But as Daniel turned away, she caught the faintest curve at the corner of his mouth. That night, Noah placed a single paper airplane on the nightstand by his bed. This one had a lopsided heart glued onto it. "This is a special flight. It only flies if Dad promises to come home early," he whispered, his voice innocent yet full of longing. Daniel stood at the doorway, silent for a moment. He didn't reply. But inside, something shifted. For the first time, He didn't see his son's antics as a nuisance. He saw them as a sign, a quiet plea for love. The clock in the living room struck 8 p.m. The grand mansion, usually so quiet, now echoed with the sound of small feet pattering across wooden floor and Noah's bright laughter. The boy clutched a pillow bigger than half his body, rolling from one sofa to another as if playing an obstacle course. "Noah, go to bed," Daniel called from his study, his voice deep and stern, leaving no room for argument. "But I'm not sleepy yet," Noah shouted, as though that excuse alone could save him from every rule. Daniel sighed. Ever since his wife's passing, Noah's bedtime had been a nightly battle. Former nannies had always given up, leaving the boy to fall asleep on the sofa or at his desk. As for Daniel, he was too busy and perhaps too clumsy to deal with tears and endless pleading. He was used to discipline, not comfort, but years of discipline had only fueled Noah's resistance. Tonight, when Daniel stepped out of his study, he was surprised to find Lily sitting on the living room floor, surrounded by a circle of pillows, blankets, and stuffed animals. Noah sat cross-legged in front of her, eyes sparkling. "What on earth are you two doing?" Daniel frowned. "Getting ready for story time," Lily answered matter-of-factly. "Story time?" Daniel repeated, as if the very concept were absurd. "Yes, this little guy said he couldn't sleep, and if you can't sleep, you need a bedtime story medicine. I volunteered to be the story doctor." Lily winked playfully at Noah. Daniel was silent. Part of him wanted to order them to stop immediately and take Noah straight to bed. But another part was curious. "Fine, but only one story," he said at last, retreating toward the staircase. Noah clapped happily, and Lily began. "Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a knight. But this knight was very special. People called him the Cold Knight." "What does cold mean, Miss Lily?" Noah tilted his head. "It means he always wore shiny armor, kept a scowl on his face, and never ever smiled. Villagers trembled when they saw him, thinking he didn't have a heart." "Just like Dad," Noah blurted out, then quickly covered his mouth, though his eyes sparkled with mischief. Up on the second-floor hallway, Daniel froze. He had been about to go upstairs, but that comparison stopped him in his tracks. Lily suppressed a laugh and went on. "Well, one day the Cold Knight made a rule. No one is allowed to make noise after 8 p.m. If anyone dares to run around, I'll scowl at them until morning." "Ha ha 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 ha!" Noah burst out laughing, rolling over with his pillow. But the village children weren't scared. They whispered to each other, "If the knight never smiles, then maybe his belly is full of grumpiness. We must find a way to make his belly laugh." "How?" "They played tricks. One kid folded dozens of paper airplanes and let them fly everywhere, like a snowstorm of paper. Another smeared honey on his armor so bees would chase him. And one child sang happy birthday every time he walked by. Just like our vacuum robot." Noah laughed so hard he hiccuped, remembering the chaos from the other day. Out in the hallway, Daniel pressed a hand to his forehead. His face grew warm. His son and Lily were using him as the butt of a bedtime story, turning him into a character to laugh at. Part of him felt offended, but another part, strangely lighter. Then Lily lowered her voice as if sharing a secret. "But you know, the Cold Knight wasn't really bad. He just forgot how to smile, because he lost someone very important to him a long time ago. Since then, he thought that if he never smiled again, he would never have to feel that pain again either." Noah suddenly went quiet. He hugged his pillow, his eyes blinking quickly. The story had struck a chord in the hollow place inside him. "So, did the kids ever make him smile?" he asked softly. "Yes, they did," Lily said firmly. "One day a brave little child stood right in front of him, handed him a heart-shaped pillow and said, 'Sir Knight, if you don't know how to smile, then sleep with this pillow. It will remind you that you can still love.'" Noah hugged his pillow tightly, his eyelids growing heavy, his breathing softening. Lily smiled and gently pulled a blanket over him. The story ended without fanfare. It didn't need one. It was enough to send Noah peacefully into sleep. Daniel still stood at the doorway, his hand pressed lightly against the wooden frame. His heart beat differently than usual. He had never expected Lily to turn Noah's mischief into such a healing tale. He had always assumed Noah acted out of stubbornness. But yesterday's plane to bring Dad home early, and now the boy's shining eyes at story time made him realize every prank was a cry for love. Just then, Lily emerged from carrying Noah to bed and caught the tall figure lingering in the hallway. "Mr. Grant," she whispered gently. Daniel startled slightly, awkward, as though caught. "I was only checking to see if Noah had fallen asleep." "He has," Lily smiled softly, "and he's sleeping soundly." Daniel nodded, his eyes betraying a flicker of unease. He was about to turn away, but Lily added in a low voice, careful not to disturb the boy's rest. "You see, sometimes a little story can do what a pile of rules never could." Daniel didn't answer, but his eyes gleamed with something new. For the first time in years, he wondered, had he been wrong to believe that discipline and distance were the only way to keep his son in line? Night sank deep over the Grant mansion. The house, as vast as a luxury hotel, felt so empty that even the ticking of the clock echoed through the silence. Daniel had worked until nearly 2 a.m., plowing through unfinished contracts before finally closing his laptop. His eyes were dry, his body demanded rest, but his mind still ran with endless numbers. He switched off the study light and stepped into the hallway. Before going to bed, he noted that Lily had gone upstairs long ago, and Noah was sound asleep after his bedtime story. A peaceful night, or so he thought. Click. A small sound broke the silence of the night, snapping Daniel's eyes open. He checked the clock. 2:05 a.m. The noise wasn't coming from downstairs nor from Noah's room. It was from his office. Instantly, his chest tightened with alertness. Everyone in the house was asleep. So why were there noises? His instincts, sharpened by years of ruthless competition, sprang to one conclusion: espionage. Daniel got up, slipped on his jacket, and moved quietly down the hall like a wolf on the hunt. The dim yellow light revealed a figure bent over inside his office. Someone searching his desk. He narrowed his eyes. Impossible. Lily? The young woman was hunched over, the desk lamp casting its glow across her focused face. Her small hands turned over the folders, her expression tense as if she were afraid of missing something. Daniel stood by the doorway, heart pounding. Every fiber of his body reacted as though facing a dangerous rival. Stay silent, observe, prepare to strike. He had seen scenarios like this before. Competitors sending someone to infiltrate, gather information, even companies bribing household staff. And now at 2 o'clock in the morning, there she was in his office, rifling through his desk. Daniel clenched his fist lightly, ready to confront her. But in that split second, his suspicions halted, because Lily suddenly whispered, relieved, "Here it is." She lifted a stack of colored papers, the edges still sticky with Noah's glue. Daniel froze. They weren't company files. They were Noah's science project sketches he had been excited about all week. Lily hugged the drawings to her chest, sighing in relief. Thank goodness. Now he'll have it for tomorrow. Otherwise, he'd be so upset. That simple, gentle remark struck Daniel in the chest like a blow. He, the father, should have remembered that, but he hadn't. At that moment, Lily turned and caught sight of the tall figure standing in the doorway. "Mr. Grant?" Daniel straightened instinctively as though he were the one caught in the act. "Miss Evans, you broke into my office?" Lily startled, clutching the drawings tighter, her eyes wide like a child caught stealing cookies. It's not what you think." She froze, clearly remembering the strict rule Daniel had laid down from the very beginning. But as he folded his arms, glaring at her with that severe, judge-like expression, Lily suddenly took a deep breath. A spark of mischief lit her eyes. "Well, yes, technically, I did break in." She lowered her voice dramatically, then shrugged. "But if you think I'm a spy, sorry to disappoint you. I only stole Noah's drawings. If spies were out stealing crayons, the entire intelligence industry would go bankrupt." Daniel blinked. He had expected nervous stammering, not this cheeky counterattack. Lily's lips curved, masking her earlier nerves. "But what about you? Why are you here? Or, were you spying on me? A boss sneaking around watching his employee at night? Sounds suspicious, doesn't it?" The joke caught Daniel off guard. His gaze dropped to the drawings in her arms before he stepped forward. "Give them to me." Their fingers brushed lightly as she handed them over. That fleeting touch made Daniel pause for a beat. He drew in a slow breath, his voice softer now. "Thank you. I should have remembered this, not you." Lily tilted her head, her eyes gentle. Noah woke up earlier. He realized he'd lost his project somewhere and worried he wouldn't be able to turn it in tomorrow. He wanted to get up and search. "I didn't want to disturb you, so I looked for it myself." Daniel went still. So it had all started with his son's small worry. He looked at Lily, her hastily tied hair, her thin sweater, her tired eyes that still carried patience. She had nothing to gain by doing this. She simply wanted to help Noah. "I owe you thanks," Daniel said, his voice lower, more sincere. "Write it down in your debt book then," Lily teased, winking playfully, her grin making him flustered. Daniel turned halfway, trying to hide the faint upward curve tugging at his lips. It had been so long since he had actually felt the urge to laugh. After Lily left the office, Daniel remained still. The desk lamp cast a soft glow over the drawings in his hand. He opened them and saw his son's crooked handwriting. "Flight to Dad. Energy from the sun." He tightened his grip on the papers, an unfamiliar emotion spreading through him. All these years, he had believed a father's duty was to provide the big things, the best schools, the best tutors, a secure future. But perhaps what Noah needed more was someone who remembered his clumsy little projects, someone patient enough to search for them in the middle of the night. And tonight, that person wasn't him. It was Lily. Since that day, Daniel still went to work as usual, but came home earlier in the evenings to make it in time for dinner. Noah, grinning ear to ear, teased that Dad must think Miss Lily's cooking was so good he wanted to eat at home. That morning, Grant Corporation held an important meeting. Daniel was usually the first person in the conference room, sitting upright, punctual to the second like a Swiss clock. But today he entered with dark circles under his eyes and paler skin than usual. A dull headache throbbed at the base of his skull, his body heavy, as if a single sudden movement could shatter the composure he always maintained. He still sat through 3 hours, listening to reports, signing documents, answering questions. Everything appeared perfect, except for one detail. When he stood, he had to brace himself against the table for a second, breathing deeply. No one dared to ask, but every pair of eyes noticed. Daniel hated weakness most of all. He believed a CEO had no right to show a single crack in front of others. That afternoon, he returned home unusually early and collapsed on the living room sofa. The smoldering heat in his body flared into a real fever. His tie still clung to his neck, his shirt damp with sweat. Daniel closed his eyes, trying to convince himself that a few minutes of rest would be enough. Soft footsteps approached. "Mr. Grant?" Lily's voice broke the silence, tinged with both surprise and concern. Daniel opened his eyes, frowning. "What are you doing here?" "I heard Noah say you didn't look well today." Lily stepped closer, leaning down to examine him. "Oh, your face is red. You've got a fever." "I'm fine," Daniel cut in, trying to push himself upright, but a cough slipped out. He turned away, his voice sharp and cold as usual. "Leave. I don't need anyone to take care of me." Lily folded her arms, staring him down. "Actually, you look exactly like someone who doesn't need anyone. Right before passing out, right here on this sofa. I told you to leave." Daniel's tone rose, harsher now, as if anger could mask the weakness creeping through him. Lily hesitated a moment, but instead of backing down, her lips curved faintly. "Fine, but at least let me take your temperature. If my boss dies of a fever under this roof, I'll get fired before I even collect my first paycheck." Daniel glared, but before he could protest, Lily leaned in and placed her cool hand on his forehead. The moment froze him. Her face was close, her eyes calm yet glowing with gentle concern. His forehead burned hot, but his chest jolted unexpectedly at the light touch. "Definitely hot," Lily murmured, almost whispering. "I'd guess at least 101.3 degrees Fahrenheit." Daniel moved as if to push her hand away, but the small palm remained firmly in place, unafraid. "You—" His voice came rough, unsteady. "What are you doing?" Measuring temperature with old-fashioned sensors, Lily said coolly. Your forehead is hot, but your face is even redder. I'd say, you're embarrassed, aren't you? Daniel blinked. A CEO like him, embarrassed? No one had ever dared accuse him of such a thing. Yet for once, he couldn't find a retort. Her face was so close, he could feel the light rhythm of her breath, the air suddenly thick between them. Just then, the door burst open. Dad, Noah ran in, clutching a box of Legos, and froze. His eyes went wide at the sight of Lily's hand on his father's forehead, and his father not pushing it away. Noah blinked rapidly. Both Daniel and Lily spun around, faces flushed with embarrassment. Lily quickly withdrew her hand and coughed lightly. Your dad just needs some rest. Daniel cleared his throat, snapping back into his stern tone. Noah, go back to your room. Noah narrowed his eyes, grinning mischievously. Got it. But Dad, don't forget to take your medicine. Miss Lily, make sure he does. The boy scampered off, leaving behind a silence tinged with awkwardness. Daniel sighed, pressing a hand to his temple. See? Now the boy's got the wrong idea. Lily hid a smile behind her hand, her eyes sparkling with delight. Wrong idea or not, at least now he knows someone's taking care of his dad. Daniel started to argue, but her gaze silenced him. He had always despised being seen as weak, yet tonight, as Lily busied herself in the kitchen, preparing porridge and bringing him medicine, her voice neither harsh nor ingratiating, his heart felt a strange warmth. Lily returned with soup, propping his pillow, pressing the medicine into his hand, then setting the bowl down. I'm not used to this, Daniel muttered, frowning. Tonight you don't get a choice. If you don't eat, I'll feed you myself, Lily replied firmly, though her tone was as soft as a breeze. Daniel fell silent, lifting the spoon. The soup smelled gentle, comforting. Each bite melted something inside his chest. It wasn't just the fever breaking, it was the cold wall he'd built around himself. Not weakness, but the sensation of being cared for, of being seen. A feeling he thought had died with his late wife. And for the first time in years, Daniel Grant, the CEO who never let his cracks show, fell asleep with a faint smile on his lips. Still following the story, if this story found you outside of Soul Stories, we invite you home, to where every touching tale begins with truth, hope, and heart. 3 days after the fever, Daniel was back to his usual self, at least in the eyes of his employees. His dark suit was as crisp as ever, his steps as decisive, his voice as cold, as though there had never been a night when he ate porridge under the watchful eye of a maid. But to Lily, the image was different. She had seen Mr. Grant when he was weak, had heard him clear his throat to hide his embarrassment, and had caught him quietly finishing an entire bowl of soup. That afternoon, Daniel came home early as usual. He entered the kitchen, where Lily was showing Noah how to cut cookies with a paper airplane-shaped mold. The boy chattered excitedly. Miss Lily, this is Flight to Dad. Cookie edition. Lily burst out laughing. Daniel stopped short for a moment. Somehow the kitchen that had once felt lifeless now looked like a real home. He cleared his throat. Lily, I need to speak with you. Lily looked up, but before she could answer, Noah jumped in. Dad, don't scold her. Daniel frowned briefly, then set a folder on the counter. I'm not scolding. I want to invite you to a company party. Both Lily and Noah froze. A company party? Lily repeated, her eyes wide. Yes, there will be shareholders, partners, and... I don't want to bring Noah alone, Daniel said simply. Lily hesitated, setting the cookie cutter down. Mr. Grant, I'm just... the maid. If I go with you, people will talk. I don't want to be misunderstood. Daniel looked straight at her, his gaze steady. I don't care what they think. The decisiveness in his tone startled her for a moment, but instinct made her shake her head. I'm sorry, I'm not suited for fancy parties. The atmosphere sank. Daniel said nothing more, only tightened his grip on the folder. Just then Noah exclaimed, I want her to come with us. Both Daniel and Lily turned at once. I want Miss Lily to go with me. If she doesn't, then I won't go. Noah folded his arms, lips pressed tight, looking like a mini CEO, the spitting image of his father. Noah, Daniel warned softly, No, Noah stomped his foot. I don't care. Any party without Miss Lily is boring. Lily half laughed, half sighed. She glanced at Daniel, hoping for backup, but saw only the faint curve at the corner of his mouth, as if daring her to refuse again. She sighed and raised her hand in surrender. Fine, I'll go, but only for Noah. Noah cheered in triumph, while Daniel gave a small nod, hiding the satisfaction gleaming in his eyes. The party was held at the city's most luxurious hotel. The grand ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers, guests dressed in tuxedos and evening gowns, champagne glasses gleaming in hand. Daniel strode in, every inch the cold, impeccable CEO, with Noah in a tiny suit at his side. And just behind them, Lily, in a simple navy blue dress, her hair falling loose. She wasn't glamorous, nor did she try to be, but that very naturalness drew curious glances from the guests. Noah quickly introduced her to a few of his father's acquaintances. This is Miss Lily. She makes the best food in the world. Lily flushed, offering a polite smile. Daniel frowned slightly, but he didn't interrupt. One older shareholder, notorious for his jabs, arched a brow. So this is your new special someone, Mr. Grant? The air grew taut. Lily nearly choked, but instead of faltering, she smiled. I suppose I am special. After all, who else could convince this little guy to actually go to bed on time? Laughter broke out. Even Daniel raised his brows, surprised at her quick wit. Throughout the evening, Lily never hid her sincerity or humor. When a partner boasted about his chain of luxury restaurants, she just laughed. Oh, that's wonderful. But I think my pumpkin soup still wins. At least it gets this one to clean his bowl without an argument. More laughter followed. Daniel, standing beside her, watched silently. His eyes no longer carried the scrutiny of their first meeting. Among the champagne glasses and whispered conversations, he looked at Lily with different eyes. The eyes of a man realizing that what stood beside him was more precious than any contract. True warmth. Noah tugged at his father's hand, whispering, I told you, Miss Lily makes everything better. Daniel squeezed his son's hand, his gaze still following Lily's figure across the hall. A rare smile ghosted at the corner of his lips, subtle, fleeting, and reserved for only one person. The company party had passed, but its echoes lingered. Since that evening, Daniel Grant began to notice more about the small woman moving about in the mansion that had long been filled only with silence. The way Lily conversed, the way she handled teasing at the party with sincere wit. Daniel found himself recalling it more than once. And then, on a Saturday afternoon, while Noah was napping, Daniel stepped into the kitchen and saw Lily bent over the dining table. In front of her were no dishes or cooking ingredients, but an old sketchbook. Its yellowed pages lay open, filled with drawings of interior designs. A small living room flooded with light, a cozy kitchen with large windows, even a child's bedroom with a rainbow-shaped bookshelf. Daniel walked closer quietly. These are your sketches. Lily startled, quickly closing the sketchbook as though caught doing something she shouldn't. Yes, just random things. Daniel tilted his head, his tone serious. Not random at all. These sketches have structure, balance, and emotion. I actually find them excellent. Lily gave a small, awkward smile. I used to study interior design, but I had to drop out. My mom got sick, and tuition was too expensive, so I quit my part-time job. Now, I suppose that dream is packed away, sitting on a shelf somewhere. Daniel sat down across from her, his eyes not leaving her face. He was used to numbers, projects, and soulless reports, but here he saw a woman trying to hide her dream beneath a mask of calm. If you want, I can cover your tuition in full, he said firmly. You have talent. It shouldn't be wasted. Lily froze. For a brief moment, her eyes lit up with unexpected brightness. But then her smile faded. She shook her head. Thank you, but I can't accept. Daniel frowned. Why not? Because it's not really a dream if I have to live off someone else's money. Lily's voice was calm but resolute. I want to earn it myself, to move forward on my own. Otherwise, one day I'll see myself as dependent, and that dream will turn into a debt of gratitude. The words cut like a sharp blade straight into his pride. Daniel fell silent, eyes fixed on her. He was used to people eager for his opportunities, his wealth, even just his favor. But Lily was different. She had self-respect. She wanted her dream to belong to her, not as a gift from anyone else. In those few seconds, Daniel felt both frustrated and admiring. "I understand," he said slowly. "I won't push." Lily let out a small breath of relief, but then Daniel continued. "However, I can help you in another way, not with tuition, but with a real opportunity. My company has a new real estate project. We need an interior designer for the lounge areas and model units. I can introduce you to the team in charge. They'll evaluate you like any other candidate. If you do well, the contract will be yours." Lily's head snapped up, her eyes widening. "You mean?" "I mean, if you want your dream to live again, you have to prove it through your work. I'll only put you in a position to try. The rest is up to you." Silence hovered in the kitchen. Lily looked at the sketchbook, then at the man across from her. A cold CEO, someone she once thought would never care about such small things, was now offering her a path. Not as charity, but as a chance to prove herself. "Thank you." Lily's voice was quiet but sincere. "I'll try, but I won't promise success right away." Daniel nodded. "No one succeeds on the first try, but at least you'll begin again." A small smile touched Lily's lips. She stroked the cover of her sketchbook gently, as though daring, after a long time, to open it once more. After the party, rumors spread faster than an IPO headline. Tabloids screamed, "Who is the mysterious woman besides CEO Grant?" From kitchen to ballroom, fairy tale or stunt, Daniel merely skimmed and dismissed them, his eyes as cold as ever. He believed gossip would blow over like the wind, but Lily didn't. She wasn't a wealthy CEO used to constant scrutiny. Every time she left the supermarket, she heard the whispers. At Noah's elementary school, one parent even chuckled. "Smart move. All it takes is looking after the right child to change your life." The words struck Lily's pride straight on. She had once taken pride in smiling through hardships, but this time, her smile could no longer cover the growing shame inside her, that she was just an ordinary girl, a maid, who didn't belong in the world of suits and champagne galas. That evening, while clearing the dinner table, Lily stood for a long time, clutching her apron. As Daniel entered the kitchen, she took a deep breath and spoke, her voice trembling but firm. "I'd like to resign." Daniel froze, his eyes darkening. "Because of the rumors?" Lily nodded, her lips quivering faintly. "I can't take it anymore. I don't want to be the city's punchline. And I don't want Noah to grow up hearing whispers that his father took the maid to parties." Daniel frowned. "You don't need to care about them." "You can afford not to." Lily bit her lip, her eyes clouded with sorrow. "You're used to that world. I'm not. I'm just Lily Evans, a girl who dropped out of school, working jobs to get by. I don't belong here." For the first time, her voice carried no humor at all. No quick-witted remark, no smile to lighten the moment, only raw hurt and swelling insecurity. Daniel was silent. He didn't know how to counter her words. "I don't want to be a burden on anyone," Lily whispered, eyes downcast. "Least of all, Noah. Or you." She unfastened the apron and laid it neatly on the table. The motion was decisive, but the faint trembling of her shoulders betrayed her inner struggle. Just then, Noah came running down the stairs, catching the last of her words. "No, Miss Lily, you can't leave." He clung tightly to her arm, eyes brimming. "I need you. Dad needs you too." Lily knelt and wrapped her arms around him, her heart twisting. She wanted to stay, wanted to keep telling bedtime stories, to cook dinners that made the boy's face light up, but she couldn't. "Noah, I'm sorry," her voice cracked, "but I have things I need to take care of. I can't stay here for a while. I promise I'll come back and visit often. Will you let me?" Daniel stood frozen, watching them. He wanted to speak, to keep her from leaving, but the determined, self-conscious look in her eyes silenced him. He didn't want to force her. He wanted her to belong in his world, but not through pressure, only by choice. Noah hesitated, then nodded reluctantly and ran upstairs. In the kitchen, only Daniel remained, staring at the widening emptiness as Lily rose, grabbed her bag, and walked toward the door. She didn't look back, only whispered, almost to herself, "I never really thought I belonged here." The door closed. The vast mansion sank into silence. But this time, the silence was so heavy that Daniel felt as though something inside him had just collapsed. Since Lily left, the Grant mansion felt as though someone had turned down the volume on life. Silences stretched longer, the kitchen chair sat emptier, and night fell faster, as if even the lights were reluctant to linger. Noah, once the bell that kept the house ringing, was unusually quiet. Daniel often came home early, taking the boy out or playing with him at home. But Noah no longer set the vacuum robot loose, no longer folded paper airplanes. Instead, every day he asked the same question in slightly different words. "Dad, when is Miss Lily coming back?" Daniel never had an answer that comforted him. Each time he said only, "She's busy," or "We'll see." Words that sounded reasonable enough, but repeated so often that even he grew weary of hearing them. At dinner, Daniel set down a warm takeout box in front of Noah. The garlic butter sauce smelled rich, but Noah only poked a few fries with his fork before setting it down. On the chair beside him, where Lily used to carefully cut his chicken, now sat only a neatly folded napkin, like a held breath. "Isn't the food good?" Daniel asked, his voice quieter than usual. "I'm not hungry, and it doesn't taste as good as when Miss Lily makes it," Noah answered without looking up. Some replies make even a grown man realize he is lost. Daniel pressed his lips together, his grip tightening faintly on his fork. He lifted his eyes and caught his reflection in the windowpane. The same crisp suit, the same composed face, but the eyes staring back at him were suddenly unfamiliar, emptied. That night he opened his laptop and tried to read an M&A report, but the glossy black words slid away like water. With every page he turned, his mind whispered, "When is Lily coming back?" He asked himself the same question and still had no answer. 2 days, 3 days, then a week. Daniel tried to do everything right, the way he always managed his life, scheduling, delegating, ordering healthy meals, even asking Meredith to find another maid. But no one could replace the smallest habit that had quietly mattered. The question, "What do you want for dinner tonight?" The patient's eyes waiting for Noah to take the first bite, or the clumsy bedtime story that made the boy laugh before brushing his teeth. On a rainy evening, Daniel stood in the kitchen and, for the first time in years, held a frying pan himself. He opened a cooking video and tried to make scrambled eggs, the simplest dish he could think of. Still a failure. Yolks broken, whites burnt at the edges. When he placed the plate down, Noah stared at it for a long time before whispering, "Dad, are the eggs crying?" Daniel burst out laughing, a rare sound cut short too quickly. He opened his phone, pulling up an unsent message to Lily. Just one line. "If you ever need anything, just text me." The message remained unsent. That night, passing Noah's room, Daniel noticed the door slightly ajar. The boy sat at his desk, blowing on marker lines to dry the ink. Daniel peeked in. On a large sheet, crooked letters read, "Have you seen Lily?" Beneath it was a drawing of Lily holding a soup spoon, wearing a crown labeled "Best Cook." Noah stuck the page on the wall and placed his palm on it like a vow. "What are you doing?" Daniel asked softly. "I'm issuing a wanted poster," Noah replied solemnly. "Anyone who sees Miss Lily has to tell me right away." Daniel wanted to laugh, but his throat tightened. He nodded, whispering, "Dad will report it." That Saturday morning, Daniel had to rush to the office for an urgent meeting. He left Noah with the temporary maid, a loud but kind woman Meredith had recommended. After the meeting, he came home earlier than expected, hoping to take his son to the park. But when the door opened, the house greeted him with an eerie silence. No TV. No small footsteps pattering on wood floors. Daniel bolted upstairs. On the bed, stuffed animals lay scattered. On the desk, where the wanted poster had been, sat a tiny scrap of paper. "I went to find Miss Lily. Don't worry, Dad. I know the way." Signed, Captain Flight to Dad. In an instant, all the blood in Daniel's body surged to his head, then drained to his chest. He called security. He called Meredith. He called anyone who might know where Noah could have gone. No one knew. The temporary maid had gone to the market for 10 minutes, and when she returned, the boy had vanished like magic. Daniel grabbed his coat from the closet, stormed into the garage, and tires screeching as the car sped out. On the road, his mind flipped through memories like a notebook. Where could Noah have gone to find Lily? Suddenly, a past conversation surfaced. On the night Lily showed him her sketchbook, she'd mentioned once working at a small diner on the south side of the city, serving soup and bread on weekend evenings. Daniel's heart jolted. He swerved sharply, merging into the rain-soaked traffic. The little diner nestled under an old awning, its low-hanging yellow lights spilling warmth onto the wet street. The bell above the door jingled as Daniel pushed it open, and almost instantly the smell hit him. Melting butter, herbs crackling, pumpkin's sweet richness, the scent of soup etched into his memory. He stood frozen, hand gripping the door handle. Inside, a few customers ate quietly. Behind the counter, Lily, hair tied back under a cotton cap, stirred a pot of soup. And by the window seat, Noah sat curled up on the bench, shoes soaked through, rubbing his face against his sleeve like a kitten. The boy turned just as Daniel stepped inside. "Dad!" Noah leapt up, his voice breaking, half relief, half fear. Lily looked up too. For a heartbeat, time stalled. Awkwardness flickered in her eyes, the old feeling of not belonging to his world creeping back. But almost immediately, her gaze found Noah. "You're soaked!" Lily dropped to her knees, pulling a clean towel from the counter, her voice scolding yet trembling. "How could you come here alone? Do you realize—" "I missed you," Noah mumbled. "I miss this smell," he sniffed, pointing at the pot of soup. "The smell of home." Daniel stepped closer, stopping half a meter away, as though afraid to shatter something fragile. He nodded to the diner owner, then looked at Lily. All the words he had prepared, reproach, reassurance, explanation, tangled together. At last he only said softly, "Thank you for keeping him safe." Lily tightened the towel in her hands, lips pressed. I was going to call you, but Noah begged me not to. He wanted to find the way himself. I'm sorry I didn't stop him." Daniel glanced at his son. Noah shrank, realizing he had broken a major rule. "I'm sorry," Daniel breathed, the words slipping out faster than he expected. "For making you feel you had to search for something I should have kept safe." Both Lily and Noah looked up. In that admission was a Daniel they had never heard before. Less reason, more truth. He turned to Lily, his gaze lingering on her familiar yet distant face. "And thank you for this scent." He gestured faintly toward the soup pot. "It reminded me how warm home could be." Lily lowered her eyes, her lashes trembling. She stood, her voice returning to its practical steadiness, the way she always rescued tense moments. "Sit down, both of you. There's a rule here. Anyone soaked like a drowned rat gets a free bowl of soup. I'm wet on 2 legs and 1 arm. Do I get 1.5 bowls?" Noah piped up immediately, his innocence breaking the tension. 1.5 bowls only exist in math, not in kitchens." Lily laughed, ladling soup into 2 bowls, 1 big and 1 small. "But you can have extra bread." Daniel sat across from his son, holding the steaming bowl of soup. The warmth seeped into his palms, spreading up through his shoulders and chest. He took a spoonful. The creamy pumpkin, the buttery smoothness, the faint spice of cinnamon. It carried him back to the first dinner Lily had ever cooked at the house. That night he had said, "Not bad to save face." Now silently he admitted it was exactly what he had been missing, and what he needed. Noah ate eagerly, glancing up every so often to check if his father was eating too. "Eat, Dad. This is flight to home." "Flight to home?" Daniel arched a brow. "It's the flight that brings you home," Noah said seriously. "I changed the name. It's not Flight to Dad anymore, because Miss Lily is there too." Lily froze, her spoon hovering midair. Daniel slowly set his bowl down. Somewhere inside, a knot loosened. "Lily," he said, calling her by name for the first time, without Miss Evans. "You're important to him, and to me." He paused, searching for no elegant phrasing, just the truth. "I don't want to force you back or make you feel out of place in my world, But if there's any way for us to be closer in a better way, I'll find it. Lily set down her spoon, gazing at father and son. In her eyes was still a flicker of caution, the old feeling of not belonging. But that insecurity softened as she looked at this scene. The boy smiling over his soup, the man setting his pride aside to say the hardest words. I'll think about it, she whispered, nodding. But right now, let me finish my shift. Customers are waiting. We'll wait, Daniel answered simply. They continued eating, words scarce. Outside, the rain thinned to a drizzle. Inside, the bowls emptied slowly. Daniel watched Noah argue over bread with him, heard the spoons clink softly against the bowls, and listened to Lily call out orders with a steady, warm voice. Everything felt so ordinary that if someone snapped a picture of the moment, the caption might well have been, "A family having dinner at their favorite diner." And maybe that was exactly what it was. The next morning, Daniel took Noah to the diner before school. The sky was clear, the wind clattering softly against the awning. Lily was wiping the counter and looked up when she heard the bell. Their eyes met with a tentative smile, no longer guarded but softened with something she could not hide. "Hello, Captain," she ruffled Noah's hair. "And good morning, Mr. Grant. Today you're flying to school on flight to home." Noah stretched his arms like airplane wings. "Miss Lily, are you free tonight? I want dinner cooked at home. At my home." Lily hesitated, glancing at Daniel. He didn't circle around. "Tonight, if you'd like, let's have dinner together. At home." At home. Two simple words, but ones that the house had gone without for too long. Lily nodded gently. The Grant kitchen once again carried the sounds of chopping knives, the smell of butter and herbs. Noah taped a messy sign to the fridge. "Welcome home-cooked dinner." He wore a tiny apron, assigned to deliver salt and check bread quality. Daniel stood by the counter, not interfering, quietly watching the two of them move around each other like a melody rehearsed long ago. "Dad, try this." Noah offered a piece of roast chicken, eyes bright with expectation. Daniel bit into it. Not bad, almost slipped out of habit, but he swallowed it and replaced it with one simple word, "Good." Noah whistled. "Dad's improving." They sat down at the table. That dinner had no wine glasses, no distinguished guests, only the clink of spoons, Noah's chatter about school, and Lily's eyes occasionally meeting Daniel's. No longer the eyes of an observer, but of a man trying to memorize. After Noah finished eating and bounded upstairs to hang a chef medal on his teddy bear, Daniel and Lily remained in the kitchen. She tidied up while he washed the dishes. The silence was gentle, not awkward. "Daniel," Lily said softly. Rarely did she call him by name. "I've thought it through. I won't come back just to cook and clean. I want to study, to work with my designs again. I'm afraid of losing myself in your world." Daniel placed the last dish on the rack and dried his hands. He turned to face her. This time his eyes held none of the boardroom shadows, only the warm reflection of the kitchen lights. "I know," he said slowly, each word carefully placed. "And because I know, I'll say this once, clearly." He stepped closer, close enough to feel near without crossing boundaries, his voice steady, deep and warm. "I don't need a maid. I need you." The kitchen seemed to shrink, holding only the two of them. Lily blinked. The words weren't loud. They promised no forever, sparked no fireworks, but they struck right where she had once felt misplaced. She swallowed and let her fluster turn into a mischievous smile. "In the food I cook?" The corner of Daniel's lips curved, the coldness breaking into a short, quiet laugh. "I'm addicted." There was no soundtrack, just the sound of someone's heart lowering its guard. Lily dipped her head for a moment to hide the sheen in her eyes. When she looked back up, her voice was firm. "Then let's be clear, I'm not coming back as a maid. I'm coming back to help raise a home with you, and I'll still pursue design. I need my own space." "Agreed," Daniel answered immediately without bargaining. "And also," Lily added, her pride placed on the table like a contract between them, "I won't accept charity money." "I know," Daniel nodded. "Opportunity, not obligation. I'll keep my word." They held each other's gaze. The moment was both romantic and adorably practical. At the top of the stairs, Noah peeked his head halfway down. "Dad, did you confess yet?" Both Daniel and Lily startled. Daniel leaned back, exhaling in defeat at his mini matchmaker. Lily burst out laughing. Noah dashed down, throwing his arms around them both. "I knew it! I knew it! Our house smells like dinner again." "Upstairs, teeth, now!" Daniel tapped the boy's forehead. "Yes, sir, Mr. CEO, but now soft," Noah quipped, clicking his fingers as he ran off. Lily watched him go, her eyes glowing. Daniel leaned in, murmuring quietly, "One day, if you'll let me, I want this dinner smell to become our habit." "You're smelling it already," she teased, but her cheeks flushed. Later that night, when Noah was asleep, Lily sat at the dining table, opening her sketchbook. Under the lamp, the old drawings seemed to breathe again. Daniel poured her a cup of tea and himself a glass of warm water. "Tomorrow I have a meeting with the interiors project team," he said. "I promise to introduce you as a candidate. They'll judge fairly." "I know, I'm preparing my portfolio." Lily turned a few pages of neat new layouts and handwritten notes. "I want my work to speak for me." "Good." Daniel glanced at her pages, then quietly slid a box of toffees toward her, a clumsy gesture of encouragement. "Thanks," Lily chuckled. "Maybe I'll bribe the jury with this." Daniel raised a brow. "No, save it to bribe Noah. It'll work better." Their quiet laughter filled the kitchen, and when Lily left to return to the diner, Daniel stood at the door, watching until her figure disappeared beyond the fence. That night, Daniel didn't sleep right away. He opened his laptop, placed his phone beside him, and stared at the blank screen for a long time. A draft email blinked open. He typed, deleted, typed again. Young Interiors Showcase. Portfolio submission, Lily Evans. He had decided to submit Lily's designs to this year's architecture competition. He wanted to help her dream in the most special way he could. He believed her talent deserved a place in the field. He hesitated. This secret might anger her if she misunderstood. But he trusted two things. First, this wasn't charity. Second, whatever the outcome, her genuine effort would be seen. He hit send. The email vanished. On the screen remained only the image of a golden-lit kitchen. His kitchen, where the scent of dinner had finally returned. Daniel closed the laptop and leaned back. The night was so quiet he could hear the ticking of the clock. For the first time in years, he didn't feel the urge to keep working, nor to hide inside a spreadsheet. 1 week later, at 10:02 a.m., a message arrived. "We are delighted to invite Ms. Lily Evans to take on the interior design package for the model apartments and lobby, Riverside project." Lily read it 3 times, her heart thundering like festival drums. She looked up from behind the diner counter, hands still smelling of cinnamon and butter, then quickly dialed Daniel. On the other end, his voice was calm as always, but cracked into a smile the moment Lily burst out, nearly breathless. I got the contract. They chose me." "Congratulations," Daniel said. Just 2 words, but they carried the sound of relief. "Tonight, we'll celebrate at home." That evening, Daniel volunteered to cook. Yes, personally. Noah taped a hand-drawn sign to the fridge. "Chef Dad in action. Do not panic." The Grant kitchen had never been busier. Daniel scrolled through recipes on his laptop, his tie hung on the cabinet handle, and a skillet in his hand. His menu, pan-seared steak, mashed potatoes, rocket salad, and a pot of black pepper sauce, he confidently dubbed signature. 5 minutes later, the smoke alarm shrieked like a highway patrol siren. Egg yolks splattered from the mashed potato attempt. The signature sauce turned the shade of graphite. "Dad!" Noah dragged over a chair to switch off the alarm. "I think we need a signature fire extinguisher." Lily bit her lip to keep from laughing. She let him struggle for a few more minutes, then glided over with a smile. "Chef, may I clean up the casualties?" "No." Daniel was stubborn, his face solemn. "I have a plan." The plan ended with steak charred at the edges like smoke-flavored barbecue, mashed potatoes saltier than the global salt market, and rocket salad mysteriously topped with rock salt. Noah stared, eyes gleaming as he tried not to say, "I miss Miss Lily's cooking." In the end, Lily switched to another burner. whipping up pasta aglio e olio for Noah in 10 quick minutes. She set the bowl before him, then turned to Daniel. You two grown-ups can eat your adult dinner. Daniel cut into the charred steak, dipped it in signature sauce, and glanced at Lily. I'll finish it. This is a milestone to overcome. Me too. Lily tapped her fork, wrinkling her nose. Tastes like a lot of experience. Noah burst out laughing. I think it tastes kind of burnt. They ate that burnt and salty dinner like a ridiculous yet endearing ritual. And for the first time, the cold CEO sat at the table. I'll learn to cook. I can't promise I'll be as good as you, but I promise. Less smoke. Lily tilted her head, smiling. I'll accept your pledge to cut kitchen emissions. A few days later, as Lily sorted through pallets at the project studio, another email arrived. Your portfolio has been shortlisted for the Young Interiors Showcase. Please prepare your final submission. Her eyes widened. She hadn't entered. Scrolling down, she saw a small note. Submitted by Daniel. Her heart tightened, not with anger but with surprise. She looked up. Daniel was bent over, tying a rope around a model board tube, looking half comical as a CEO/mover. When did you... She raised her phone. Daniel paused, then admitted. That night we had dinner. I thought, talent deserves to be seen. Every document, every contact is in your name. I only hit send. Lily fell silent for a beat. She had once feared charity, but the way Daniel had done it, quietly by the book, making sure her name stood everywhere it should, wasn't charity. It was a gentle nudge forward when she'd been afraid to take a step. Next time, ask me first. She met his eyes. I promise. Daniel nodded, offering no excuses. And now, Lily drew a deep breath, her smile blooming like a light switched on. Be my assistant for the future award-winning designer. Ready for anything. Printing A1 boards at 2 a.m., trimming foam, fetching coffee. Perfect. She held out her hand, serious. Shake on it, Assistant Grant. His large hand closed around hers. They began. The intense days rolled in. Lily revised layouts for the 7th time, adjusted lighting, and tested recycled materials. Daniel stood behind her, not only praising, but cutting in with razor-sharp questions. Will the elderly really find this circulation path easy? What backup light remains if this fixture fails? Why does this chair placement make people breathe easier? Noah was the cheer squad, plastering paper stars over the desk. Go Lily! And flight to home. Each night before bed, he still begged, Miss Lily, tell me a story. And this time the tale was of a designer with an invisible cloak, quietly turning houses into homes. On competition day, Daniel hauled the model case, blueprints strapped over his shoulder, his sleeves rolled up. The hall was packed, judges seasoned. Lily presented without trembling, her voice calm as poured water, her eyes shining as she spoke of human scale for big lives. When she finished, the room fell silent before erupting in applause. Daniel stood in the back, not clapping louder than anyone, but with eyes glowing like a private light switched on inside him. 3 days later, the announcement hung in the hall. Winner, Lily Evans. The press wrote it short and true. She designed so people can breathe easier. The very line Daniel had typed in the quiet of that night now became the headline. The award ceremony was warm and solemn. Lily wore the same navy blue dress from that party, her hair loose, as she stepped on stage to accept the trophy. Cameras flashed wildly. She spoke briefly into the mic. Thank you for seeing me, and thank you to those at home for giving me the courage to begin again. In the seats below, Noah jumped, waving a sign. Best designer and best cook. Daniel looked at Lily, his heart both calm and overflowing with emotion. As the MC closed, Daniel rose. He stepped onto the stage quietly. The entire hall turned its eyes. He wasn't used to public gestures, but his voice rang deep, steady. At home, you once asked me, what about the food I cook? He looked into the eyes, trembling with tears. I'm addicted to the smell of dinner, to Noah's laughter at your bedtime stories, to the way you place a chair so someone else can breathe easier. He dropped to one knee, ring box opening under the lights. Lily, will you marry me? Build a home with me? The hall erupted. Noah shouted, "Say yes, Miss Lily!" Lily laughed through her tears, not messy but shining, like someone who had finally found the right place to stand. She held out her hand, teasing even as her voice wavered. "I will, but do you promise to reduce kitchen emissions?" "Net zero in 12 months, Daniel answered, like signing an MOU. Applause thundered. Cameras flashed. Someone in the crowd whispered, "A modern fairy tale," then corrected, "No, a modern kitchen tale." From that day, family dinner became sacred. Daniel's Google Calendar carried a fixed block at 7 p.m. Dinner, non-negotiable. Mondays were pumpkin soup, Wednesdays were roast chicken with herbs, and Fridays were homemade pizza. Daniel was in charge of the non-burning part. Noah grew less mischievous. He still folded paper planes, but now for decoration, not for attention. He grew confident, even inviting friends home to try Miss Lily's cooking. One evening, Daniel came home 15 minutes late. Noah didn't sulk, only announced a new rule. Whoever was late washed the dishes. Daniel laughed and signed off immediately. Lily, standing beside him, dabbed soap foam on his nose. "A CEO doing dishes looks pretty adorable," she teased. He replied, "In return, chef, no more rocket salt salad." On a Sunday afternoon, sunlight slanted through the kitchen window. Noah spread out a big sheet of paper on the floor, scribbling away. He drew a house with wide windows, inside of which were 3 people. A tall man, a woman with loose hair, and a boy grinning ear to ear. On the roof perched a paper airplane, finally grounded. Around the drawing, he stuck red hearts everywhere. At the top, he wrote, "Flight to home, landed." Lily sat beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Daniel turned from the sink, drying his hands, and leaned over. The 3 of them sat close together, smiling. And in that moment, all the old rumors, all the distance, all the insecurities melted away. What remained was simply a house full of laughter.